welcome to this finale episode of the Common Sense Skeptic series, Andrew Tate, Matrix of Lies. Parts 1 and 2 are available in their full form only on our Patreon account, and edited down demonetized versions are now available on YouTube. Part 1 dealt with Andrew Tate's early life, overblown kickboxing career, and reality TV phase. Part 2 picked up after those careers ended, and takes you through all the illegal activities that Tate and his brother used to build up their social media empire. Now Part 3 is going to deal with their multiple legal issues, and how the Tate brothers stand to lose that empire of filth, the value of which seems to have been grossly over-exaggerated to impress their followers. To be as comprehensive as possible, this episode is going to try to keep to a timeline of what and where the Tate brothers and their accomplices were charged with and when. But, of course, there's going to be a couple of tangents thrown in here and there. It is worth recalling at this point in time that Tate's brushes with authorities did not start in 2022. The audio recording we played back in Part 1 was evidence in a 2015 investigation of a rape that happened in 2013. We've already told you how the UK authorities investigated that accusation for 4 years before dropping it, due to a small chance of conviction had the charges gone to trial. But that incident is still haunting Andrew Tate to this day, because that rape victim has now joined forces with 3 other victims that have come forward in the meantime, and those 4 women have now taken to civil court to sue Andrew through other channels. On June 14th of 2023, Tate was served with papers alleging rape and sexual assault of these 4 women in the UK between 2013 and 2016. The 4 women seek justice, accountability, and compensation as victims, hoping as well to encourage a renewed UK criminal investigation into these crimes in the hopes of prosecution and conviction in the UK, in addition to the charges that he's facing in Romania. As for a sampling of evidence in this case, one of the victims reports being choked unconscious during her rape, and that Tate kept raping her even after she came to.
We went to my room to have sex, and whilst we were having sex, he put his hand on my throat and strangled me until I lost consciousness. Then when I kind of came back around, it was a bit confusing at first because you don't really know what's happened when you kind of pass out. But he was still having sex with me when I kind of came back around again.
When you say you came round, are you saying that he was still penetrating you?
He was, yeah. As soon as the person you're having sex with is unable to communicate what they want to do, then that consent is just completely gone. We didn't have sex again after that. But he kind of kept saying, I own you, you belong to me, threatening to kill me. And then the next day, one of the whites of my eyes had gone completely red. That's kind of common in domestic abuse cases where there's a lack of oxygen in your brain.
The other 3 women also report violent rapes, serious physical assaults, and controlling and coercive behavior. They hope this lawsuit will encourage other victims of any sexual assault to come forward and call out their attackers, no matter how powerful they may be. As for Tate's outrageous media claims that these women are not even real, the lawyers for the victims have some pretty blunt words for Tate. Talk of the Matrix and false flags hold no weight in court. The survivors look forward to seeing him there. We're going to go back and address some viewers from Part 1 who told us we needed to give Tate a pass on what they called typical BDSM behavior. We want you to pay close attention to this clip, which started making its rounds on Twitter earlier this month.
Let me tell you something. Girls come to me and go, yeah, beat it up. I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. No, I mean it. No, bitch, I mean it. I guarantee I changed the way you look at sex forever. You're going to be crying. I won't cry. I bet you cry, bitch. I bet you cry. Don't challenge me. You're effectively challenging me to a fight now. You're saying I can't hurt you. You're out of your mind? I don't even have to you. Forget the sex part. That's a distraction. My dick can stay in my pants. I'll just start beating the shit out of you. How about that? We walk in the bedroom. I start kicking your ass. But you cry then? Yeah, you want distraction from the dick. Well, that distracts me. I'm trying to fucking fight. No, I just want to fight. Say that shit to me again. Can I say this on YouTube? Yeah, I can say this on YouTube. I've legitimately done that. Girls run their mouth. I just start beating the fuck out of them. I'm not even having sex. They love it more than ever. They like it more. The less sex you have with them, the better.
Tate crossed the line from consensual arousal to physical abuse a long time ago. Now it's not even possible for him to just spank his partner. He feels the need to beat the shit out of her. Moving on, another set of articles we've come across from Antenna Stars in 2020 indicate that Andrew Tate was questioned with regards to drug trafficking and murder charges some years prior. Obviously, even if he was questioned by authorities, once again he didn't face any charges here, but when you come across clips like this, it sets your mind to wonder. This is Andrew and Tristan on their rented yacht, sat with two small women who never make a peep, while these two man-children brothers try to impress these girls with tough talk.
Jake is more of a man than Logan.
Oh, 100%.
That's why Jake doesn't listen to Logan, and that's why Logan is sitting there as the older brother, bum-licking Jake's enemy. A bunch of bullshit, right? You're the older brother. You have to set an example. Anybody who has beef with my brother, you have beef with my brother, it's on site. On site. I don't care if you're in a club. I don't care if you're in a supermarket. I don't care if you're on the street. I don't care if you're with 10 of your boys. I'll roll up strapped. On site. Bum, bum, bum. All of you. You. On site. You have beef with my brother, it's on site. He's going to sit there and be best friends with his brother's fucking enemy?
Combine that statement with headlines from podcasts quoting Tate as saying, "I've watched wives crying over their lifeless husbands," in an article where he states he's watched 5 people die. And it makes you wonder if the UK investigators are still looking for a suspect in that murder they questioned Tate about, or if they let the wrong man go a second time.
Bum, bum, bum.
That curiosity gets further fueled when you hear Vivian say things like this while casually answering questions from her TikTok or OnlyFans followers.
The reasoning behind like why some girls don't like it because they're scared they're gonna die. I've actually seen some guys actually accidentally, how funny is that? Actually accidentally kill their girlfriends during a sex because they were choking them that hard.
This statement and the nonchalant attitude with which she shared that information while bobbing her head along to music is extremely disturbing and raises even more questions, since Vivian had been with Tate since the age of 15, and she was supposedly exclusive to him for at least 6 years, and her job as bottom was to sleep with the girls, not other men. Who exactly did Vivian watch kill multiple girls by choking them to death? Also, where did these events happen? What happened to these victims? And were these deaths reported or covered up? You take Tate's declared mafia affiliation, obvious hatred towards women, known reports of how brutal he can be, and other statements that he makes.
That's how it goes. Slap, slap, grab, choke, shut up, bitch, sex. These are the basic moves of pimping.
And you have to wonder, is there a good reason why Andrew Tate, the self-proclaimed trillionaire, lives only 2 blocks away from this large Bucharest graveyard? Now, of course, none of these events are why the Tate brothers are in hot water at the present. Their current legal woes, and the reason why they're currently under judicial control in Romania, unable to leave Bucharest and the surrounding county of Ilfov, originate from events involving an American girl that Tristan Tate recruited in the winter of 2021 by the name of Emma Gabby. Emma is a 21-year-old photographer and musician that the Tate brothers met at a fashion show in 2021, according to Gabby's mother. Tristan Tate began an online relationship with Emma starting November of 2021, expressing false feelings for her and promising a serious relationship if she came to Romania for him. As demonstrated in chat logs, they guaranteed her safety in Romania. Tristan paid for the airline ticket that transported her and picked her up from the airport in a blue Rolls-Royce on April 5th of 2022. Tristan took Emma back to his house, which was patrolled by armed guards, and she was told the guards would not let her outside without his permission because, Tate said, he had too many enemies. Tristan didn't stay with Emma, instead leaving her under the control of Georgiana, and the girl's movements were monitored by cameras that the Tates could access remotely to watch her. Emma was later moved to a different property with 4 other girls further away from Tristan, and again told she could not go outside unless one of the other women accompanied her. Gabby was growing fearful of the brothers, coming to the conclusion that Tristan and his brother were terrible people and were actually evil. The text log between Emma, notated as Bear, and her parents, whose names are redacted, describe a deteriorating, potentially dangerous situation that Emma needed to get clear of, and she intended to escape the house, bringing a Moldovan girl named Aliona with her. Although the girls were planning on escaping the house on their own, Gabby's parents in the US instead activated the American embassy, who alerted DICOT in Romania, resulting in 2 properties owned by the Tates getting raided on April 11th of 2022, only 6 days after Emma's arrival in Romania. During these operations, armed guards found and rescued 4 women in total from these homes, including Gabby and her friend. At this time, as a result of this raid and its discoveries, authorities seized computers and personal digital devices thought to be of value to a broader investigation. Information gathered from these materials also resulted in the January 2023 raids of Tristan's baby mama's condo and the home of Vlad Obu, the Tate war room monster that we warned you about in part 2. For the next 8 months, investigators would use these devices and victim interviews to construct their case against the Tates, while the brothers continued to flaunt their lifestyle across social media, until those outlets were shut down to them in August of 2022, when Andrew Tate was banned by Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, matching Twitter's long-standing ban on Tate due to his misogynistic message. Around the same time, Andrew Tate started moaning to the press about false accusations of being swatted, including during an interview with Tucker Carlson, in an obvious attempt to deflect suspicion away from him.
News accounts in the United States say that the U.S. Embassy in Bucharest, Romania, was tipped off to your misdeeds and alerted the local authorities you might be committing human trafficking. Were you arrested for human trafficking? What happened?
Yeah, I was not arrested. So what happened is I suffered from a case of swatting. It's very popular with people who are large on the internet. Many large YouTubers have been swatted. It's where you call the police and you say somebody has a gun or there's a hostage situation and the SWAT team arrives. Somebody made a phone call to the American embassy saying that I was holding women at my house. The police arrived, they investigated, they realized that nobody was in the house against their will. There was no crime committed. They said, okay, you're not a suspect.
Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong.
3 months later, in November of 2022, Musk ended the lifetime suspension of Tate on Twitter, opening the doors to an expansion of Tate's social media influence, no longer requiring him to use his Minion affiliates to spread his message, a move that allowed him now to troll people like Greta Thunberg out of the blue. Then, on December 29th of 2022, more than 8 months after the raid that freed Emma Gabby, after interviewing other witnesses and victims discovered during this investigation, after combing through hard drives and social media accounts, DICOT showed up at the door of Tate's compound with armed officers to haul away Andrew and Tristan and 2 female accomplices, holding them on suspicion of rape and human trafficking involving 6 identified victims. The Tates would immediately start pleading their innocence, making declarations there was no evidence to support these charges, and in response, the Romanian authorities released photos of the evidence it had taken them 8 months to compile, a file totaling 70,000 pages. The following day, a Romanian judge ordered the 4 criminals detained for 30 days, as requested by the prosecutors. On January 4th of 2023, DICOT conducted another raid on Tate properties, 7 properties in total, seizing 11 supercars on this date, along with the other assets mentioned in Part 2. These criminals lost an appeal of their detention on January 10th, and on January 20th of 2023, the detention was extended for another 30 days until February 27th, allowing prosecutors more time to continue their investigation, now focusing on human trafficking and organized crime. Another appeal of their detention on February 1st failed, and 3 weeks later, the brothers got another month tacked on. The brothers would be granted house arrest on March 31st of 2023 after 3 months of incarceration. From their warehouse hideaway, they would immediately start broadcasting across social media, pleading their innocence. As a part of this spin cycle, on June 1st, 2023, the BBC was invited to the Tate compound for the first mainstream media interview since their arrest. More on what happened here a little bit later. 3 weeks after the BBC interview, on June 20th of 2023, the formal indictment against all 4 named criminals came down, outlining charges of human trafficking in a continued form, rape in a continued form, and organizing a criminal group, along with several other smaller crimes. These are charges that are moving forward against them, and we're going to dissect them in detail. To bring us up to date, while we were writing this finale, the Tates were granted leave from their house arrest on August 4th of 2023 and were moved to judicial control, which is the equivalent of being out on bail. A move that sparked a social media avalanche of claims that the Tates were innocent, that charges had been dropped, and that they were now free men. Another series of lies that we are going to break down as we discuss the charges against these 4 co-conspirators. Starting with the charges of human trafficking. Both Andrew and Tristan Tate are accused by the Romanian authorities as trafficking victims using the lover boy method, also known as the Romeo pimp method, where traffickers try to get potential victims to fall in love with them. And of course, a pimp is a person that controls and financially benefits from the commercial sexual exploitation of another person. Being lover boys is something the Tates have both denied in interviews, feigning ignorance as to what that means, while giving their audience completely false information.
So even with this garbage they're hitting me with, human trafficking. So they come along and they said, oh, you're a human trafficker. I said, well, I've never transported anyone. I've never kidnapped anyone. I've never restricted anyone. I've never held anyone. They said, no, but you're a human trafficker via the lover boy method. I said, what's that? It's where you pretend to love them. So what, being nice? So I was nice to some girls 10 years ago? Is that my crime? Maybe I did love them. But we're not together anymore, so what? I pretended? Who said I pretended? Prove I pretended to love. And then what did I pretend to love them to achieve? The case against me is that I pretended to love girls to make them do TikTok for money.
2 years ago, my brother and I formed an organized criminal gang with the intent of moving women to Romania so we could steal money from their TikTok accounts to enrich ourselves.
But a reminder that ignorance of the law is not a defense from breaking it. Since being released from prison, while they were still on house arrest, the Tates were courted by a large number of international news organizations and other podcasters with international followings. Combined, they will constitute a campaign of misinformation that we are going to help shine a light on as we wallow through this muck. Two of the most recent interviewers, namely Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, have been acting especially dense when it comes to the Tates and what they're charged with, ignoring publicly available international definitions for what human trafficking is, as an example. Here's how they danced around the human trafficking definition during their interviews, instead of going into them with a clear understanding of the subject matter.
I was already extremely financially successful. I was already a father. I was already very well known. I had no financial motivation. I have no criminal record. It's not my personality profile, but I woke up at the age of 35 and decided to make girls do TikTok to enrich myself with the pennies that I would earn from TikTok views.
So in the United States, I think the belief is that you were charged with human trafficking.
Yeah, that's human trafficking because what you do is you force a girl to work against her will for financial gain. That's human trafficking. And their justification for this is that girls do TikTok. Some girls I know who they found who say they're not victims have TikTok accounts.
How do you force someone to do TikTok videos?
I guess the prosecutor is going to have to explain that, isn't he?
And then I realized how closely pornography is related to human sex trafficking.
Real sex trafficking, not TikTok
real sex
accounts.
Trafficking, and yeah, we should talk about that because they are kind of stretching the definition of sex trafficking. In your case, I've taken a look at it.
But I'm confused as to how what you're being accused of constitutes human trafficking.
Well, it's a very loose law. It's a very,
But the term doesn't seem to have a real definition.
No, it doesn't, especially when you understand that the Romanian alleged victims, who say they're not victims, have lived in this country for 10 to 15 years before I ever showed up here. So I'm not sure how the trafficking took place.
Human trafficking is not in any way an ambiguous term, and it has not been stretched in this case whatsoever. There are a number of ways one can be considered a human trafficker, and they're all laid out in black and white. Here's how human trafficking is defined by the United Nations Trafficking in Persons Protocol. If one of each of these criteria is met, the person is a human trafficker by definition. They could, for example, transport persons they have abducted for the purpose of removing their organs. They could harbor persons through abuse of power to use as slaves. What the Tates are accused of in their criminal proceedings is recruiting through deception for the purposes of sexual exploitation. The actual wording across all charges reads similar to this, with small variations depending on the victim. The defendant, Andrew Tate, using the Instagram application while in Romania, recruited by deception the victim by falsely inducing her about the intention to establish a family marriage relationship and the existence of false feelings, with the aim of sexually exploiting her by forcing her to engage in pornographic activities. There are slight variations across the 4 victims attributed to Andrew, and then substitute Tristan for the 3 victims attributed to him. Being human traffickers is something the brothers now deny in every interview conducted with them. Except there's a couple problems with these men making those claims.
And not to plug or anything, but in my course, we talk about weaponizing your attention because that's the only thing a man has.
I say plug away. What's the website?
It's cobratate.com, and I've got a course on there that basically explains how I got girls to work for me for
Tate's
my webcam.
PhD, right?
It's a PhD course, pimping hose degree.
Yeah. I was wondering what it meant.
PhD, pimping hose degree.
I've seen it. I just didn't know what the PhD meant. I was like, is this a PhD in pimpology? Like, what is this?
But yeah, I basically explained how I got girls and how I got them to work for me.
Okay.
So it's not just about picking up girls, it's about converting them into really loving you enough to moving in with you and working for you and giving you all the money.
Sounds an awful lot like sexual exploitation and human trafficking to us. But there's some small print here that we need to highlight as well. If the victim is under 18 years old, according to this protocol set out by the United Nations, which Romania joined on December 14th of 1955, these victims are defined as children, and therefore the second criteria is not required to qualify the activities as human trafficking. Meaning, no matter how it was done, someone who recruits victims for sexual exploitation is every bit as much a human trafficker as another criminal that transported victims for organ removal. So the only question remaining would then be, were the Tates recruiting women into online sex work?
I have recruited, I think, although you've worked with a lot, more girls into, I guess, the adult entertainment industry than anyone else. I really have.
That's how you recruit girls. Do not recruit girls any other way. Get it started, and if you have any further questions, come at me. I'm going to do a second video.
Were the Tates recruiting women into the online sex trade? Yes. Yes, they were. But were they exploiting these women?
I was all about trying to get paid. Like I used sex as a tool to make women love me so they'd obey me and live in my house and make me money. That's what I wanted. So I was a pimp in that sense. Like, I was not trying to have sex with women. I was trying to get women to obey me, and I realized that's easier if they like to have sex with me. If they don't like having sex with me, it's pretty hard to make them listen to me.
They earned a lot, but they weren't working for money. They were working because they liked me. They respected me. They wanted my attention. They wanted to end up as my main girl, or the girl who had my kids, whatever it is their dream was. So they work and work away, and I keep large percentages of the money. That's one of the reasons I got so rich in this business.
Were they exploiting these women? Yes. Yes, they were. And if any of the girls in question hadn't turned 18 yet, the means by which the Tates recruited and exploited these children is irrelevant, although they have both made it abundantly clear how they recruited these girls. Still not convinced? Well, sometimes people need to have things spelled out for them in black and white. So, here's the archived web pages for Tate's PhD course that he took down from his website, along with a payment link that is still active. Let's read the page together. My job was to get women to fall in love with me. Literally, that was my job. My job was to meet a girl, go on a few dates, sleep with her, test if she's quality, get her to fall in love with me to the point she'd do anything I say, and then get her on webcam so we could become rich together. Is this how you treat someone you've declared to love? Well, see, you have to understand, Tate never loved any of these girls.
Most men look at a girl and they want to fuck her because she's beautiful. I will state with conviction, besides James Bond and Andrew fucking Tate, we're the last two people on the planet who will look at a beautiful woman and think, I have to fuck her so that she tells me what I want to know. I have to fuck her so she obeys me. I don't give a shit about having sex with beautiful women. I fuck them so they listen to me, so I can get what I actually want, which is not them. It's a means to an end. Every single Bond girl was exploited. That's exactly what I do. When I watch a Bond film and I see him basically pimp a bitch, to me that speaks to my heart. I've been there. I've done that. Anyone who's followed me long enough knows that I first made my $1 million with a webcam business. I have met beautiful women with a good personality and thought, she will make me money. I have to f this bitch. I don't want to have sex with her. I just need the money. Bond needs the fucking nuclear codes. Do you understand? I am James Bond.
Thank God James Bond didn't live long enough to hear this criminal parasite make that comparison to the world's greatest spy. We're going to back up for a second and pick a couple other factoids from the sex trafficking online pimp tutorial that Tate did early on in his career, the one where he's wearing his blue sweater. We've gone through this full hour-long video before to gather the clips we used in a 5-minute synopsis, but here's how Tate tells people he did exactly what he's now claiming he didn't do. He targets vulnerable girls on Instagram and initiates contact using his PhD tactics.
So the recruitment process is the same as the PhD course. You message them on Instagram, The PhD course is my recruitment system.
He doesn't mention webcam, which is his ultimate goal, while her ultimate goal is the relationship he claims to be offering.
I don't mention webcam until after I've had sex with the girl. If you're on dates and you're trying to mention it, it just doesn't work. It puts them off. I'd never do that. That's disgusting. I'm not a whore. It's just not gonna work.
He has sex with the victim under these false pretenses.
You fuck the girl. After you fuck the girl, you do the PhD test.
After the victim became enamored with Tate, he would then take her out to dinner with his groomer, who acts as his salesperson, meaning the top G can't seal this deal by himself.
If she passes the PhD test and she wants to be with you, then you start mentioning things like, yeah, but you know, you're always busy. What if you doing what? So I'll have a webcam business. Oh, I don't want to do that. So, okay, I know you don't want to do that, but listen, come, let's have a meeting. Let's just talk about it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Fine. But let me explain it to you properly. In fact, I'll bring one of the girls who works for me. Your bottom the new girl, you go out for a nice dinner. Your bottom is the one who does the selling. You don't do the selling. The girl has to hear from a girl.
While the bottom is selling the victim, Tate is plying her with alcohol, the most frequently used date rape drug in the world.
My girl would sit there and go, oh my God, before this I was a waitress and it was shit, and now I do this and I make so much money, and the guys all love me and they adore me, and on my birthday they send me presents, and I get so much money, blah, 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 and it's so much fun. Martinis, 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 bang, threesome. Slam them both.
After getting the victim drunk, she is lured into bed for a threesome, and while they're in bed, Tate turns on the camera to live stream on Chatterbait and has men pay to see the girls get drunk and fool around together. In doing so, Tate has already exploited her for money.
Your bottom knows this girl's like, okay, well, I'll try it. Put both girls on camera together the first day, so the new girl can sit there and just sit with the other girl and get drunk. Give them a bottle of vodka, put on the fucking Chatterbait, 100 tokens per shot. The guys will send loads of money to get the girls drunk, because guys like drunk girls. Girls will sit there, get drunk, have a great time. You say it's your new job now. You haven't go to work ever again.
Further, and this is important, if the girl is under 18 years old, both Tate and his bottom bitch have now committed sexual assault on a minor, according to international law, making them both pedophiles. So this video confirms beyond all doubt one of the crimes that Tate has been accused of. He recruits the girls to make him money by sexually exploiting them.
You're effectively taking girls, teaching them how to make unlimited money from home, and then making sure they give it all to you.
And the method of controls used by Tate include the false lure of a relationship in the beginning, then financial manipulation once they started doing cam work, withholding money from them, withholding contact information from them that could allow them to run away, and physical intimidation, which we'll get into later when we meet Tate's female accomplices. This video also demonstrates other crimes Tate could be charged with in the future. Tate proudly announces that the reason why he used Chatterbait as a website is because they pay out in Bitcoin.
The website you were going to use is Chatterbait. Chatterbait is how you're going to get rich, because they will pay you in Bitcoin. No tax, none of that shit. So don't worry about any of that. None of that's going to come back to get you.
Tate believes and tells his pupils that by cashing out in cryptocurrency instead of fiat, he doesn't have to declare it as income, which is textbook tax evasion. And as Tate is infamous for saying, his real wealth came as a result of webcams, not by any other means. So whatever wealth he claims to have should have been subjected to tax. Another clip from the video has Tate telling his subscribers the following as another means of control.
Tax is also another important element for controlling your woman. You're not going to pay anybody tax because you're getting paid in Bitcoin, but you need to tell your girl that you're paying the tax. If they don't believe you or they want to get fresh or whatever, print out some tax forms. I used to do this all the time. I used to print out some random tax forms and say, yeah, sign here, sign this. What is it? It's for the tax. You want to pay the tax or not? Okay, and they just sign away. I don't know what the fucking signing. Let's throw them away afterwards. But they think something's happening. Something real's happening. Nothing's happening besides me getting rich. Anyway, so tax is another important element to keep control of the girl.
More self-snitching, this time regarding the destruction of business documents. Signed tax forms, which Tate made some girls sign only to throw away in the trash, which in itself is a minor offense compared to the broader implication of that act. Tate, by his own reports, had up to 75 women working in 4 different locations at one point in time, making him, he says, millions of dollars.
You need to set aside some of your profit for consulting, and that consulting money is going to be me. I'm telling you. I had 75 girls. 75. So if you're making
$30,000 a month, you need to say, you know what, $5,000 or $6,000 a month I'm going to spend on flying Tate here, or speaking to Tate on Skype and asking how I can make more money from the girls I've got, how can I expand, I let him come see my setup, da, da, da. I'm being completely honest with you guys. If you guys are serious about the money, I know this game.
The total number of girls that came through his studios is unknown, but let's assume the number 75 includes all of them. These girls were all under the false impression that Tate had been paying proper taxes on their earnings on their behalf. Tate's declaration of what they made per month is all over the map, from thousands to millions per month.
So my best ever girl used to make between $1,500 and $2,500 a day. Every day. And she made most of this money from the same 4 or 5 guys.
People would say, why did those girls work for you? Because the girls would work for me, and at 50%, because it was 50-50, would make millions per month. If they worked for themselves, they'd make fucking nothing. I was the best in the fucking game.
And all those girls thought they were all square with the government on that money. However, by Tate's admission, not 1 cent was paid to any government on that income. Not by him and not by them.
I don't know what the signing, I'll throw them away afterwards, but they think something's happening, something real's happening. Nothing's happening besides me getting rich.
Meaning, instead of just 1 count of income tax evasion, you can tack on 75 or more counts of tax fraud. And suddenly, visions of Al Capone's downfall come to mind.
You're here because you got nothing. You got nothing in court. You don't got the bookkeeper. You got nothing. Nothing. And if you were a man, you would have done it now. You don't got a thing, you punk.